Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant podcast. These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. I'm your host, BJ Odom. Each week, we'll explore the world of transplantation. After being born with congenital heart disease, had my first open heart surgery at 22 months old. Hospital's kind of been my way of life. I just say, another day at the office, here we are again. In fact, my parents were told I'd never even live past my mid to upper teens. Can you imagine being a parent and hearing information like that? Well, today I'm 68 years old. So blessed I am, and 68, it must be my lucky number. Because that year, I received a breakthrough surgery, transposition of the great vessels. It's a surgery they do now with children right at birth, sometime even still in the womb. And yes, I made the medical books as the oldest to receive this surgery. And in fact, the way it worked, they told my parents, 2 wrongs would make a right. So maybe that's why my life has kind of been the way it is. But nonetheless, my heart ran backwards, which means, if you don't know, you have a strong side of your heart, which does most of the heavy lifting when it comes to, beating hard and keeping the blood circulated to your body. And then you have a weak side. Well, with this surgery back then, what it did, it made my weak side do all the heavy lifting. And my side that was all ready to go and ready to energize, because it was, the strong side, it wasn't doing squat diddly. So basically, my heart ran, as I said, completely backwards. And then so the weak side finally said, hey, I've been doing this for way too long, all the work, and I am just plain worn out. So back in 2003, I received my first gift of life, a life-saving heart transplant. It was a miracle. I woke up the next morning. I remember them telling my wife, oh, you can sleep in, he's all drugged up. He won't even wake up till noon. But I think because of this surgery, the heart transplant, I had parts of my body getting blood that had never gotten blood before, because I woke up that next morning, I felt like I was ready to climb a mountain. Oh man, I felt so good. I remember calling my wife, said, I am good, bring my glasses in. I can't see my phone. And I called my old morning radio partner back then and said, hey, let's go on the radio. I'm ready to jump on the radio. It's a good story, right? After all the anti-rejection medications, in 2015, I needed dialysis and I needed a kidney transplant. Once again, 2015, the year I was blessed with a kidney transplant. Now, I know it's been a while, and I've talked about this with many people, talked about it on the radio show, talked about it on my podcast, and I said, you know what? I need to do a podcast that is just 100% transplant driven. I want to talk to patients with different organs, because there are so many. When you pass away and you are an organ donor, you can save so many lives, because, you have the heart, you have the lungs, you have kidneys, pancreases, livers. You can actually donate skin, your retina in your eyes. That's also can help someone who maybe had not seen in years or never seen can possibly see again. These are just some of the things you can do if you donate your organs when you leave this world. Of course, we'll talk about that as the episodes continue, because I would like to talk to people that have had every type of transplant you can ever imagine. My hope is also to be able to talk with the folks who, are those donor families. Those people at the worst possible moment in their lives decide, hey, I would like for my loved one to be an organ donor, and let them save as many lives as they possibly can. So we're going to talk to donor families. We're going to talk to recipients of different organs. Hopefully even, I know the doctors and the nurses, sometimes they are very busy people, but if we can get some of those to stop by and talk with us, that'll be great. We have different organizations all across the country, support groups. We have the groups that go out and procure the organs. Talks. When you're ready to turn off that life machine, they're in the room with you moments after you find out that it's time. They're sitting there saying, could we ask you a very hard question? Could you donate those organs so others can live? I can only imagine what those conversations are like. Hopefully we'll talk to the people that go out and talk with people. And of course, if you can, it is very important. You can just do it simply on your driver's license. Say, I am an organ donor, because you can save a boatload of people by donating those organs when you leave this world. And hey, I saw it on bumper stickers. You can't take your organs to heaven. No, you can't, but we can use them right here on earth. People like me and some of the people we'll talk to over the coming weeks in this wonderful opportunity that I have do this podcast. I remember I was seeing a television show as Jimmy Kimmel, actually, and he was talking to Christine Applegate, who has MS, and she said, I thought it was very important that I share my story. And when I saw that episode about a month ago, I said, you know what? I think it's important that I share my message, how organ donation has helped me overcome so many things and so many people I know that has helped them. Let's tell the world. Welcome to the podcast. It's my pleasure. Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. And we've got lots of guests, so let's get to it right now.
Waiting in line is no fun.
Imagine waiting for a life-saving organ transplant.
One organ donor can save 8 lives.
60 more can be enhanced by tissue donation.
Donation occurs only after death.
And after all life-saving measures have been exhausted.
All major religions are in support of donation.
I choose to give hope.
Make a difference. Donate life.
Donate life.
Donate life.
Done vida. I register.
I registered
I registered.
To be an organ and tissue donor.
I registered to save lives.
Registering is easy.
It only takes a minute.
And it costs nothing.
My donor gave my life back.
Thanks to my donor, I'm back at work.
Thanks to my donor, I'm going to college.
You're never too old to donate.
Or too young.
Who wouldn't want a piece of this? Talk to your family about donation.
It's the right thing to do.
I'm waiting for a liver.
I'm waiting for you.
What are you waiting for? Register today at donatelifeflorida.org.
These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome back to The Gift of Life, talking with Mike Terry today. And actually what's important about this interview is before I got my heart transplant, he got his. I was on the radio with Bill Stevens. And of course, we wanted to learn more about, heart transplants and why not get it from, the horse's mouth. So Mike, when did you get your transplant?
I got it on November 2nd, 2002.
And we had you on the show like 6 weeks later. So that was probably as I was just starting, to get my testing and to get approved and everything on the list, or maybe I was already on the list. I can't remember exactly, but I know I got mine in March. So we're about 4 or 5 months apart from each other then, right?
Yep.
And you also...
I remember being on your show that time that you couldn't believe how good I looked after only 6 weeks after my transplant. And I think I gave you some inspiration to fight on to get your heart.
And I think, I think that surprises a lot of people, because I remember after I got my transplant and I would go out and meet some friends, they would say, "Oh, wow, you look like normal. You look better than you did before the transplant." And I think a lot of people think when they meet you after a transplant, you're going to be like kind of, I don't know, like, and it's just the opposite. Yeah. You're full of life after a transplant.
Yeah, especially in my case. Yeah, I was pretty rough shape before I got mine, but I looked a lot better and it felt a lot better for sure.
Now, I don't know if you were like me, but when I first got, I got tested and then I was okayed, and they said, my heart was in terrible shape and I needed one like yesterday. So what they would do to me, I remember this, they would put me in the hospital like for 10 days. They would put a swan in me, which is basically a tube going in your neck into your heart to help, pump it. And they said, if you're in the hospital and you're, on all this stuff, you go up like a level as far as, the need for a heart transplant. I remember they did that like 3 or 4 times with me. They'd put me in the hospital for about 10 days. I'd have to go home for 5 days. Then I'd go back in. Yeah. And I remember when I got mine, I was on my last day of being able to be in the hospital, and they go, "We got you a heart." So it's happening this morning. Now, how did you hear about yours?
Well, mine was kind of a long story. How I did wait quite a few, about actually 2 years after I first got on the list. But what the point where it bumped me up was, what was happening. The heart disease that I had was called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. And it's complete opposite of what normal heart failure, because what happens with people with the disease that I had is your heart pumps great to your body, but the outflow is bad. So, and that's because of a large septum muscle in the heart, which is a characteristic of the heart disease that I had. So what was happening was my other organs were shutting down, like my kidneys and pancreas, a whole bunch of stuff like that. And when they finally did this catheterization there at Tampa, they found out that I was only getting 1 liter of blood per minute outflow, where normal heart rate's 7 liters a minute. So as soon as that happened, they moved me up the list right away. But even then, from that point on, it took almost a year after that before I actually got my transplant. Thankfully, I didn't get that. But yeah, so the main reason was, the heart disease that I had, my family, like I said, was called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. You hear a lot about it now. People actually are advertising medications about the disease now. But in my family, it caused a lot of sudden deaths. I had 4 sudden deaths in my family with people because before they had defibrillators and all that stuff, just died in their sleep, basically. And my daughter has the gene and has the disease, but she had a myectomy done where they went up to Rochester, Minnesota, and they took about 7 centimeters of her heart muscle away. Now she's got 2 beautiful children, and she's doing great. So, but they come a long way, as you know, in medicine with the hearts and, of course, with everything else too, medically. But it's a lot better for us now than it was back a few years ago.
One thing that's still kind of like they don't have, I guess I've got it perfected, but yet it causes a lot of other problems because, you'd think you get a heart transplant, your heart is good, and now life is great. And we are so blessed to get the gift of life. That's for sure. And we thank the people, that donate the organs. It is a wonderful thing to do. But there is still many bumps along the road.
A lot of bumps, and one big one you ended up having a kidney transplant because of the medications you take. Now I'm facing the same type of situation for the same reason. It's the medications. In my case, it was the Prograf. It's a drug that you need to keep you alive, but it also affects your kidneys. And over time, they become bad. You need a new kidney. I also had polycystic kidney disease, and my family's a family history thing, so that didn't help either. Other things too, and I think you went through the same thing as I have. Since our transplants, we've gone through many surgeries, cancer surgeries of skin. I've had many. I think you had a bunch of them too. And that's just. It was kind of funny up in Tampa. I think when I was like 3 or 4 years out, they told me it's time to start going to see a dermatologist. And, and the very first time I went, they found some squamous cancer. So, and been going on ever since. So I can't tell you how many surgeries they have. Many surgeries for that. I also had prostate cancer as a result of this too, and got through that one too. So yeah, so there's a lot of bumps in the road. But the main thing is we are thankful for the gift of life. It's the greatest thing that ever happened to me and to everybody who gets one. People can't realize how much it does affect your life. You can do things you never thought you'd be able to do, which I've done. But again, the side effects of all the other things, I call it the downside of a heart transplantation. It's a great thing. It saves your life, but over time, the longer when you last, like in my case and your case, we're over 21 years. That's a very, very long time, way over the average limit for a heart transplant person for sure. And we have to, give up with the things that happen to us. But what you do now is just look forward, get it fixed, and keep going. And that's my attitude. So just keep going, be another day. So.
And I was going to say, I think that's got a lot to do with it. One, your attitude. And whenever I go into the hospital, I just tell them, I go, hey, it's another day at the office for me. I'm used to this. I was just in a few weeks ago. I had AFib going on, and so they needed to readjust my meds. They also put what they call a loop recorder in my chest, and they just made a little hole, stuck it in there where I can actually feel it through my skin. It's not a pacemaker, but it reads my heartbeat, and it reports back every night. It feeds that to Tampa General, and of course they look at it, and I'm like, the things that go on in this medical field just amazes me each and every day because it has changed over the last 21 years for both of us.
Yeah, so much to the better too.
Your story doesn't have to end. As an organ donor, the good in you can live on. In fact, you can save up to 8 lives through organ donation. Sign up to give the gift of life after you're gone. You'll be happy you did. Just maybe, someone else will too. Sign up online today as an organ, eye, and tissue donor at organdonor.gov. It saves lives.
I remember this was the roughest thing. And I mean, it's not something you have to do, but I think about everyone who's ever had a transplant. I don't care what organ it is. You get a chance to write a thank you letter to the family. And I remember those because both of my heart and my kidney were both from, deceased people. So I wrote it twice to 2 different families. I never heard back, but that was probably in the whole ordeal, one of the toughest things I ever did. How was writing your letter?
I was the same way. I had like I said, transplant November 2nd. So I didn't do anything through the holidays. I just felt that the family didn't, want to be reminded of anything at that period of time. So I waited till like after the first of the year, and I sent my first letter. Of course, you can't put any names in there, and you send it to your transplant coordinator, and then they pass it on to the family. And about 3 months later, I got a letter back, and there was one copy in English and one copy in Spanish. So I figured this might have been a minority family or not. But anyway, the lady, it was the mother of the 2 girls that ended up being the ones that made the decision to donate their dad's organs to me. And so originally Tampa, they didn't really want me to meet. They were kind of against it for a while, but we kept getting letters back and forth. And I think by the time we had my 3rd letter back and forth, I had to, really decide, push Tampa to let this happen, which I ended up doing. So they finally allowed us to meet. So we met them up at Tampa General Hospital on St. Patrick's Day in 2004. So my very first meeting with that family. It turned out it was a Hispanic family. Her name was Nelda was the mom, and Nellie and Gladys were the 2 girls. They were 12 and 13 years old at the time. And their father, the one who died, was Jose Mendoza, his name was, and he was from El Salvador originally, and his family, he still had family over there. And it was very, hearing his story about him, he was a real true hero in the Hispanic area where he lived. He lived in Lakeland, Florida. So after that, since that period of time, we've met every year, at least once, except the year of the COVID was the time, a couple of years during COVID, 2020 and 21, we haven't met. But so far, as of today, the 2 girls now have children. I've taken part in when I say 2 girls became 15, they have the quinceañera, which is a big Hispanic thing when you're 15 years old. I took part in that. And then just last year, when their oldest daughter, 19, had hers, and I was up there, 15, I went to hers and celebrated with her. So it's a really hardworking family. And I think you remember we used to have those Night for Life fundraisers down here in Fort Myers. That family would come down every year and help us with that. So they were very dedicated, and so they were, even today, they're so happy that I'm doing well, and they're so happy that they made the decision to donate. And they also spread the word a lot to their Hispanic people too about the importance of organ donation. So yeah, it's been a great ride with those people. It's like my second family. So I'm very, very close to them.
How was the first meeting though? I just know I've never, a donor family has never reached out to me to even give me an opportunity to communicate really. Yeah. But I think that would be so awkward the very first time you meet.
Yeah, the very first time was up in Tampa, in the hospital, actually. I had my daughter and my wife went up. We had some balloons and thank you stuff and flowers and all this stuff. And then they walked in. It was kind of a shocking situation to see that. And I see there was just these 2 beautiful little girls and a mom, and they had their stepbrother, Diwali, his name was, and he was 7 years old at the time. So we just hugged each other and kissed each other, and it was just a great thing. After we got done with that meeting, we took them out for dinner. I got on the phone with their mother, because the grandmother didn't really want them to do it, to make the decision to donate her dad's organ at the beginning. She was kind of against it. But when I talked to her about it and she heard the story and how well it came out, she was so happy that we're all Yeah. So yeah, the first meeting was tough, but I think a couple of years later we did a show with you and Renee, I think her name was. We did a show one time where two girls and I got on there and talked about the organ donation, about meeting each other, and that was very emotional and great. But it was a great thing because it got the word out about how the importance about the organ donation. So yeah, it's a great experience in my life, and they saved my life, and I'll always love and care for them.
I had this story, and it puts chills when I tell it. I never met a donor family that I had, but I was, I did comedy for a while, and I was at a club, and I always did a couple little jokes about, I have a transplant and blah, 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 blah. Well, this was like my first show, maybe my second. After I had my transplant, I was just starting to get out there again. And I had this big old boy come up to me after the show, and he goes, "My brother died 2 weeks ago, and he was an organ donor." And my head immediately went, where is this going to go? Is this guy going to be angry? Is he, what's his feeling right now? And all of a sudden, he gave me this biggest bear hug anyone could ever imagine. And he said, "Seeing you up there tonight, knowing that we donated my brother's organs. I know you didn't get those organs, but I know someone did, and he saved lives. And just seeing you up there, I felt like I was seeing my brother on stage." And that was like the weirdest feeling, but a good feeling I'd ever had.
Yes, it is. It's a great feeling to hear people talk about it. I know people through the support group that we have down here, as you know, the organ transplant recipients of Southwest Florida. Like I said, we had those fundraisers. There was always this one group that would come to it, and they were donors. They were. She was a mother who lost her boy. They lived in Canada. It was so. She met me through that, coming to that event, and she ended up coming every year and buying stuff on the auction and raising money for us. And I still know that lady today. And so she was just a donor family, and that's how important they are. I mean, to us, and the importance of today, especially like with kidneys, like you had, and like looks like I'm going to need one half pretty soon, are so needed. There's like 100,000 people today that need just kidneys alone, and they're so hard to get. So we just need more people to get the word out about organ donation, the importance of how important it is, no matter what your faith is or whatever. I think everybody believes that, or in the organ donation. Saying we have here is, don't take your organs to heaven. Heaven knows we need them here. So that's what we're all about. So we need organ donors to kind of spread the word.
When I was 17, my liver failed. Only the sickest people get to the top of the transplant waiting list, and I was one of them. I was supposed to go home on a Wednesday, and that very same day I fell into a coma. I don't know, I woke up on a Saturday with the liver transplant already. If it wasn't for organ donation, I wouldn't be alive today. I wouldn't be here. Someone gave me the gift of life, and now I have a future.
With you needing the kidney transplant, are you on the list? Are you in the stage where you're being tested? Where are you now?
This is the stage. I just recently went from stage 3B to stage 4, but my symptoms are getting worse now, and my GFR level went down to 24. And what the nephrologist told me, because the first question I said to her was, "I don't think I'm going to get a heart transplant because of my age." And she said, "Well, I think you might be able to get one because of the fact," she said, "the mere fact that you had a heart transplant for 21 years, they're going to want to keep that heart going. They want to keep that heart alive and well." So she said, when your GFR hits 22, I can send you up to Tampa and recommend you to get on the list. So that was heartening, and it felt good to hear that there's that option. But also I have to go now and learn about all the stuff I have to go through with the kidney thing, with dialysis and stuff like that possibility. So I'll be doing that now next couple of weeks. So, but she also said that being 21 years out with the drugs I've been on, as you know how toxic they are, she was surprised it took me this long to need a kidney. So,
well, I wish you nothing but luck. And of course, I'll mention this now. I'm going to talk to some, kidney transplant patients in the near future. But there is one thing too with kidneys. You can have with a heart, obviously you need a deceased person to donate that. But with a kidney, you can actually I only got one kidney. I didn't get both kidneys. I got one because you can operate on one kidney. And that was in 2015. Right. You can get living donors also. I want to ask you a question and you know, answer this how you like. But now my son wanted to get tested and he did get tested and he didn't match. But I was thinking, I don't know if I want my son to actually give up one of his kidneys for his old man. How would you feel on something like that? I was against it. I'll be honest with you. But I mean, there was parts of me saying, well, maybe I should.
That's a good question. Right. I have one son. After he moved back here to Fort Myers, he was up in Tennessee for a few years. I don't know if I would want him to do that either. You know, I would wait and see what the situation is, you know, as far as even getting on the list to start with or not. If I do get on the list, it really depends how I'm feeling or how my kidneys is failing. You know, I might ask him to even I have a daughter and some other friends I know that might step up and want to donate their kidney to me. I don't think I would be too upset with that. But yeah, the question of asking my own son to do it is a tough question. Not sure. I think he definitely would do it if I asked him to, but, you know, don't know exactly how I'm going to handle that when I get there.
And, you know, I do. I wish you the best of luck. And like you said, and I don't know if that had anything to do with me or not, but I know I got my kidney relatively quick. The only thing that I did hear that it was the person had a past history of drug and alcohol abuse. So they said this could be, you know, a tainted kidney. And I had the choice whether I wanted it or not. And I'd been on dialysis probably for 4 or 5 months, maybe even longer. I can't remember exactly. But I said, you know, they said, you don't need to tell us now. Tell us, you know, like in the next couple hours. And the wife and I talked it over. And I said, hey, I might not get this opportunity again for a long time. You know, I know they're going to test it anyway, but let's go for it. And we did. And, you know, that was actually January 2015. And my creatinine just the other day was pretty much in the normal range, making me feel pretty lucky and fortunate.
Good. Yeah.
Well, Mike, again, best of luck to you. Thanks so much for jumping on the new podcast here, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. It's been a pleasure because, like I said, you were the first interview that I had on the radio when I found out I was in the search for a heart myself, and you've been an inspiration to me, and I'm glad that we've both been blessed with 21 plus years now.
You've been my heart buddy forever, brother. You know that.
All right. Well, you take care, and thanks so much.
All right. Good talking to you.